Now, U.S. President Joe Biden says Israel has agreed in principle not to engage in military activities in the Gaza Strip during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, as negotiations for a temporary ceasefire between Hamas and Israel continue in France. So for more, we're going to cross to SABC News correspondent Cullen in Paris. Ross, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us at this hour. Before we get into the ceasefire talks, perhaps you could provide us an update. We know that the Emir of Qatar is in France. What's the purpose of his visit?
Right, it's the Elysee Palace behind me. You might be able to see some French and Qatari flags. He's due here in the next half hour, the Qatari Emir, for talks with Emmanuel Macron. There'll be a state dinner. They'll be signing bilateral agreements, speaking about the relationship between the two countries. But the main issues that they will be speaking about involve the Middle East. Can there be a deal on the release of hostages? Can there be a deal to secure a ceasefire in Gaza? And what will the landscape of the Palestinian territory look like going forward? What will the political outcomes be in terms of the two-state solution? The Elysee Palace saying something that Doha and Paris are absolutely firm in their resolve. They need to work towards ensuring there will be a two-state solution to the Middle East issue between Israel and the Palestinian territories. So that will be the key issues that are going to be discussed between these two men this afternoon.
His visit comes as France, as you alluded to, is hosting the Middle East ceasefire talks. Perhaps you could speak to how the two sides are finding each other, just on the back of the sentiments echoed by U.S. President Joe Biden, saying that Israel has agreed in principle to stop its military activities during the month of Ramadan.
Yeah, so the most recent talks took place over the weekend. It's the second time this year that France has hosted these quadrilateral talks between the United States, Israel, Egypt and Qatar. And the Qatari Emir's Prime Minister was the key representative for Doha over the weekend. That's been one of the crucial roles that Qatar has been playing, being able to speak to both sides in this conflict, being able to speak to representatives of Hamas and also speak to the Israelis. Now, Hamas is very close to Egypt as well, and they've been a crucial partner in these discussions, and we understand that there has been this tentative idea that there could be a ceasefire agreed by the end of this week. So by Sunday is what President Joe Biden has hinted at. So whether that will be a temporary ceasefire, whether that will be a permanent halt to the fighting, we do need to see how that plays out. But it seems to be this swell to try to sort out the details of a ceasefire deal before the Muslim holy month begins.
Ross, just as we wrap up, any protests or activities happening in and around the area that you could update us on from your vantage point as we speak?
Yeah, so French President Emmanuel Macron has been one of the key players in trying to facilitate talks between the different sides. He has had regular calls with Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister. He's also had calls with Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian Authority president, over the past few months since the attack by Hamas inside Israel on October the 7th last year. And this latest move with the Qatari Emir coming here for a state visit cannot hide the fact that this is another attempt by the French president to try to move forward with some sort of resolution, maybe not getting an agreement on all of the facets, on a ceasefire, on aid to Gaza, on the release of the hostages, on the political outlook going forward, but at least trying to make some progress and maybe get a deal on one of those aspects to try to bring this conflict to an end, to try to release some or all of the hostages still being held by Hamas inside Gaza, try to increase and that flow of aid during the war and ensure that that flow of aid into the Gaza Strip continues after the end of the conflict. There will be talks on all of those issues, with many hoping that there will be progress on those issues as well. And the talks this afternoon between the French president and the Qatari Emir.
Well, Ross Cullen, thank you for that update. We'll leave it there for now. Ross Cullen is our SABC News correspondent, speaking about the negotiations for a temporary ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. It's happening in France. We know that the Emir of Qatar is also in attendance. We'll monitor developments and bring you the latest as it unfolds.